welcome in everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast, and of course, it's Philly Sports Guy, Stat Guy. How you doing, gentlemen?
I'm doing well. I'm back home in Philadelphia after a beautiful weekend down in Dallas, where you know, uh, watching the implosion happen is just a beautiful sight,
I mean,
don't you think?
No, it's
in
been
their
enjoyable.
defense, the implosion's been happening since last year. So
Yeah,
Yeah, but it happened so late last year. It wasn't until the playoffs that implosion began. So
yeah,
exactly. Whereas this year, it's like they just dropped a hand grenade in the middle of the team. They're just like, and go.
exactly.
they drop it in the middle of AT&T Stadium before every home game.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing it's in the middle because if it was in the end zone, none of their guys would get hit.
Exactly. But yes, so I'm overexcited. Like I was like, yeah, this is great, woohoo! And just listening, I had to listen a few times to Jerry's comments. You know,
Sure.
it's like I mean, yesterday I was more of I spent a lot of time at the airport because my flight was a little late. No, not late. It was later in the night, but I was there with Philly Sports Trips and I was running the trip, so I made sure that everybody else got on their flights, and then I stayed at the airport. There was no need for me to kind of go anywhere else,
Yep.
and so I re-listened to the interview, and there are moments where Jerry is just yeah, you can almost tell like it's starting like old age is starting to really creep in. It
Sure.
was like the statement of, well, maybe we should just tear down and build a new stadium. And you know,
Yeah. Well, I
he
think that was more frustration boiling over than him being senile, right? Because they're like, well, why not have curtains? And
no
it's
no no
legitimate.
no. So, but that was then because well, we should know where the sun is at, and what about the moon?
Yeah.
It's just like those were the things that I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
I feel like Jerry about his stadium is the NFL about their uniforms, right? They're just it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. They want it the way they want it. And I think that's Jerry. He's like, I want the windows open, even though curtains would make sense, right? Make it so that your guys, I mean, because it's not like only his player didn't see it. Like nobody in the end zone saw the ball because there were multiple guys that would have had a shot at that thing.
not even anything else. Like I understand that they have those curtains up that they could use,
Yeah.
when they're doing wrestling and stuff like that. How about just putting some tint on the window?
Yeah. Anything, right?
Just a little tint. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There were so many different ways to be able to do that. And it's only funny now, like I'm sure this has happened numerous times, and I'm sure that it happens more often to opposing teams than the Cowboys. Just so happened to happen to the Cowboys this time. And
Well, and
out of
that was his comment though, is we know where the sun's going to be. So his thought on it was we should have picked to go the other direction.
we should have deferred
Yeah.
and did this the opposite way, right? So because they didn't defer, they took the ball, which is rare in the first place now. That is
Like
funny.
when yeah, no, it is rare to come out and be like, we want the ball right now. That is rare.
Well, I understand why he did it. You know what I mean? I understand that it was uh, done purposely.
Sure.
It was done purposely. Because they're like, hey, listen, we got a quarterback here. We want to get him moving in the right direction. We want to get things rolling. And to think about it, if he came out here and he even just got like 3 first downs, he didn't even have to score points. That would have maybe been enough momentum to get things like moving for them in the right direction. But it
Yeah.
didn't. He went three and out.
Yeah, no, I mean it wasn't a good showing in any facet of the game. Like they were terrible all day. But I
So
mean, I get the thought process, right? You figure the other team has no film on you. and you could come out and, move down the field and get them, right? Which is cool as long as you actually do that.
Well, and I think I'm not sure. I got to check this out, but I believe I'm gonna pull this up right now as we speak to find out exactly. So there was exactly. I got to go to the stats here to kind of. There was exactly 66 yards of passing offense that was done for the Cowboys.
Wow.
The Eagles held them to 66 yards.
That's amazing.
3 sacks, 1 interception. One play, specifically one play, went 17 yards. That was almost like a quarter of all the yards. Wow, that's kind of hysterical. Oh, no, that was a rush. Yeah, that was a rush. That doesn't count. So it was 66 yards. I believe in the interception that they returned that we got like 30-some yards on that return for the interception. And that means we got half of their yards. They threw half of their yardage to us.
Coming the other way, yeah. Huh.
Interesting. It's so interesting that's let me see how many yards they lost via sack. 17 yards via sack. They sacked us 5 times for 46 yards. One of those was a really big one, though, because they got the fumble recovery. But and speaking of fumble recoveries and weirdo stuff, I have never, and I wonder now what the real thing is. Detroit had 5 turnovers and won the game.
Yep.
Yes.
What's the most amount of turnovers by a team that ever won the game?
5.
Oh, 5, yeah.
First time since 1952 that a team turned the ball over 5 times and won the game. And ironically, the Detroit Lions were the last one to do that back in 1952.
But nobody's ever turned it over 6 times and won the game.
Nope.
Okay.
Well, and I think the most turnovers in a game was 8, right?
Yeah, most turnovers in the game was 7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Vikings also made some history on Sunday also. I think they became the second team in NFL history to have 3 or more turnovers, not score a touchdown, and
still win. Yeah. Hey, look at that. We actually get to see that it's Joe today. Weird.
Good morning, Joe.
I don't
or
know
afternoon in your way.
I don't know what the deal is with StreamYard, but like it's they got to figure their stuff out because it's been acting kind of weird.
Yeah, they started doing some of their new stuff, which has been, like they're setting up all this new things, and it's like, they came up with this new version that they have. It's like you have the basic, and then you have the medium, and then you have the advanced, and then you have the pro, and then you have the super pro, and it's like, I sat there and you gave me a special rate that I was going to have for my life now, and now all of a sudden you took away the
features of it, yeah.
That one specific. So I don't get the special rate anymore, which is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go to Restream.
Yeah. Or, OBS's new product is supposed to be decent too. So, I mean, there's other options for sure. But
OBS is a lot different, though. That's much different type of situation. That's great if we were all in the same place where we could switch to each other and stuff like that. That's not really meant to do what it is that we're trying to do. We would still need one of those services.
Yeah, I know Restream is it's a little bit more cumbersome to use, but there's more options within it, which is kind of cool.
Not that anybody cares about any of this. So they're just like, you know what? Just show up here, unlike Jay. And
yes. Man.
Well, since you're familiar with them, Bo, let's talk Bears, Shane Waldron, and all the drama going on in Chicago this morning.
Well, I mean, it's not really drama, right? They just fire the guy. So what I don't get.
No, there's drama behind closed doors, but I'll let you go.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'm more curious
You're
about
the
that.
reporter in Chicago. I mean,
No.
maybe you should be the one talking.
That's what I was thinking, right?
So I mean, the dramas. Well, obviously, firing Shane Waldron was a done given. You knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when. I'm honestly surprised they did it this week because it's Packer Bear week, and I think I'm surprised they just didn't keep everything the same this week and then just wait till the Packers curb stomp the shit out of them on Sunday and then do it Sunday.
See, I
But-
just figured it would have been him and Eberflus, holding hands, leaving the building.
Well, the Bears are never going to fire a coach midseason. It's never going to happen.
I mean,
They've
they
never
just
done it. They've never done it before. They're never going to do it. And honestly, I can't think of a situation where the Bears have ever fired a coach before their contract is up, which means Eberflus would be safe,
Look at you being consistent.
right? Which means Eberflus would be safe through next season yet because it's his final year of his contract. The Bears don't like to pay more than one head coach at a time, which that's why that franchise is in the position they're in right now.
Sure.
But the drama that is really
But they're going to anyway because they just fired Waldron. They're going to have somebody calling plays.
Oh yeah, well they promoted Thomas Brown from passing game coordinator to the OC, and Thomas Brown was the passing game coordinator for the Rams a couple of years ago, and
Sure.
he was the OC in Carolina last year. So we saw how that worked out. So I'm not sure that's really an upgrade from Waldron at this point.
No, but you could do the same for the head coach. You could do what the Jets just did and elevate their DC and move.
Well, see, that's ultimately the biggest issue I think with the Bears. When I saw that they were firing Waldron, and I was going through like all the coaches that they have, they don't have anybody on this staff besides who they promoted that has any play calling experience. So it's not like the Bears could have been like, I want you to call plays. Well, that's literally not going to be an improvement because everybody on that staff besides the guy they promoted has zero play calling experience. So not only did you hire Shane Waldron, who he had one good year as a play caller, that was Geno Smith's first year in Seattle when Geno Smith had that resurgence, but outside of that, Waldron has kind of been middle of the road at best. But
So the only thing I'll say in Waldron's defense is outside of that first year with Geno, he's had a horrendous offensive line play, and he's had to use tight ends as linemen to protect guys. There's not a lot of great offensive play you can draw up if your dude is getting smashed the entire game. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think he was great.
No.
But I think he gets a lot of unwarranted hate because most of his creativity has gone to just trying to keep the quarterback upright because he goes right from Seattle, whose offensive line was atrocious, to the Bears, who didn't do anything to help their offensive line out. So, I mean, I just don't know how good you can be as an offensive coordinator if your quarterbacks are running for the life all the time.
No, and that's the thing with the Bears too, is they surrounded him with good positional coaches. Like Chris Beatty is a great wide receiver coach, and then they have a really good running back coach and a really good quarterback coach. But they didn't surround him with anybody that's had previous play calling experience in the past, where if you would have brought in a guy like Norv Turner to be the quarterback coach, well, Norv Turner would have been your replacement for Waldron, a guy who's been calling plays for 30 years where he could change some things up. You literally don't have anybody on the staff that can do that. And to make matters worse, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, and a lot of the veterans on that team are clamoring for Tyson Bagent to start. And none of the veterans on that team right now want Caleb Williams starting the rest of the way.
Perfect.
So that
And
team right now
I
is a
love that
shit show.
because
Right?
I am a fan of Tyson. I am a big fan of Tyson Bagent.
Besides, I'm just
Are
here
you
for
really?
it. The
I am.
chaos is great.
Well, I know his father really well.
Yeah,
Well, I know his father somewhat well, but his father is the world champion arm wrestler.
and Keenan Allen made a good point too when they were asking him why he wants to make the switch, and he's like, it's nothing against Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has more talent than Tyson Bagent. Caleb Williams has a brighter future than Bagent does. But he said at this point in Williams' career, it's best for him to sit down because if he got sacked 9 times by New England that last week, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit are going to freaking kill Caleb Williams. They are literally going to just tee off on that offensive line and absolutely annihilate him. So I think a lot of these veterans at this point are like, we just want him to sit down for his safety at this point because he's going to get literally eaten alive the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, he's going to get beat up. There's no question. But I feel like the Bears are going to do to him what the Giants are doing to Daniel Jones. They're like, you know what? We know you're going to get beat up, but it's cool. We're going to see if you die. Like, it's because there's been plenty of times that it's like, oh yeah, Daniel Jones, they're down by 20 and he's been sacked 8 times. Maybe let a backup take some reps, right? Like, you're out of this game. Your guy is getting murdered. Last year, he missed time multiple times because of exactly this issue. So, I mean, I would imagine Caleb Williams is he'll be lucky if he doesn't get hurt by the end of the year, the way that offensive line is playing.
Well, the last 2 games, you were down 29-9 to Arizona with 4 minutes left. There was no reason why Williams should have been out there with 4 minutes left. They ended up leaving the game limping anyway, so that a lot of people were kind of calling for Eberflus's head last game. And then last week against the Patriots, you're down 19-3 with 6 minutes left in the game. Williams has been sacked 9 times. What is the point of leaving him out there to continuously take the beating he's taken when you can just bring Bajan in and literally hand it off 3 times and punt it?
They're just trying to see how durable he is, I guess. I don't know. When you're down far enough, I mean, why not? Why not give someone some reps?
And the scary part is, like, there was a lot of questions as whether or not the Bears were going to draft Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. Had they drafted Jaden Daniels and he'd be taking this beating, he'd be done. For how skinny Jaden Daniels is and the durability questions that Daniels had coming out of college, Daniels would be done by now.
I mean, he'd be getting beat up. I mean, everyone would get beat up behind this line. Like, there's no getting around that. You need a guy that can take some hits. So, I mean, in that way, Caleb Williams was a good fit there. Justin Fields, similarly, right? Like, both those guys like to run around a little bit, so they're used to getting hit. But yeah, Jaden Daniels probably gets hurt. That's probably true. Although his play style might have fit the Bears a little better. But
yeah. And then you got Tua last night trying to knock himself out again.
I mean, he wasn't really, though. Like, he went low. He made a business decision. He basically tried to make him trip over him. I mean,
still got hit in the head with a knee, though. I mean, anytime that guy gets hit in the head, you're already looking like, well, how bad is it?
Yeah, I mean, everything does seem to, like, funnel towards his head for whatever reason. But, in his post game, he's like, oh, yeah, I didn't really feel that. So, in theory, it should be fine. It wasn't a big forceful hit anyway.
Yeah.
But it was a funny, like, some of the worst tackling you could possibly look at. Like, he basically just was crawling on the ground in front of him to take him down.
Well, I mean, I'm all for quarterbacks trying to make a play, like after they throw an interception, after there's a fumble. But in Tua's case, he should just be like a punter and a kicker and no longer try to make the tackle. Do like one of your little half-ass dives where it makes you look like you're making an effort, but just stay away from the play.
That's essentially what it was. Like, he would have had to get out of the guy's way to do that because he actually had a good line for him. But he made a business decision, right? Like, he didn't square up and try and actually tackle. He did child's pose in front of him, made him trip over him. So, I mean, it was effective. Like, the guy didn't advance. Tua doesn't get hurt. It was as ugly as it could possibly be. But, ultimately it worked. I did like McDaniel's response, though. He's like, yeah, I mean, the first step is just to not throw it to your opponent.
You think he's on the chopping block?
No,
because of the time that was missed from Tua. Yeah, I think he gets a pass on that.
I think the bigger concern is, has Tyreek Hill checked out? Because that was his first touchdown reception in 7-8 games. And granted, I understand that Tua is not there, but Jamar Chase has caught touchdown passes from Jake Browning before. He's made Jake Browning look good. And then you have Justin Jefferson catching touchdown passes from Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jaron Hall, and some of these like terrible quarterbacks. But yet Tyreek Hill can't catch a touchdown pass from Tyler Huntley. He can't catch a touchdown pass from Skylar Thompson, and he really wasn't doing much with Tua this year either.
I mean, he can't catch a pass from those other guys because they weren't upright long enough to throw a touchdown pass. Like, they weren't scoring points. It wasn't just, we're not using Hill. It's we can't stay on the field. So, I mean, I don't know how butthurt he can be about that. It's not like the ball was going away from him. It was they just couldn't keep the ball. Like I get it if
And
quarterback is
truth of the
away.
matter is that if you got a less than accurate quarterback, all you got to do is double up the main guys, and you don't have anybody else. You know what I mean? It's like, and if if their offensive line was any bit worthwhile, maybe they wouldn't have had Tua knocked out 17 times already.
Well, but and not just that, but of all the players out there, Hill can't be the one that gets disinterested because he kicks out a kid every 800 yards. He needs this paycheck. So he better stay as locked in as you can get.
He's going to get paid either way, though.
Yeah.
Well, but there's always bonuses.
Right. Every touchdown he gets, he puts on another kid. So
Yeah, that's right.
so expect another child.
Setting up franchises.
So expect another child on the way tomorrow since he caught a touchdown pass.
Millions and millions served.
Uh,
I'm surprised that Miami won that game.
I am too, actually.
yes.
You know, it's like I was like, well, really, the Rams. Like I thought Miami was just done, but I guess
The
not.
Rams were actively trying to lose that game, though.
I mean, that was an ugly game, top to bottom. Just both sides. It was not very good football yesterday.
No, that's why I really thought it should have been flexed out of that position. Like I thought the Steelers game should have been flexed into Monday night.
Yeah.
Because just watching this one on the schedule, you're like, oh, that game is going to
Well,
be
and what you just said, that made the most sense too, because yesterday was Veterans Day. Why not have a game taking place at Washington on Veterans Day on Monday night? That's like your literally perfect flex out game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would have, and it was a great game. And I mean, instead, you see this on the schedule, and you're like, man, this is like before it was even going to happen. You're just like, man, that's going to be a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
And it lived up to that. So, I guess there's that.
In the AFC, there's only 6 teams with a winning record right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
AFC East actually has a big logjam at the bottom.
Yeah.
3-6, 3-7, 3-7. Which makes me think that, like, because 5-5 right now is the 7th seed there.
Who's got that?
Denver.
Okay.
Who is going to wind up at one of these 3-win teams is going to make the playoffs?
Like I said, I still think Cincinnati gets in as that 7th seed when you look at how
they're a
play.
4-win team, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I think they are the one that's going to get that 7th seed just because of how you look at how they played against Baltimore. Like that team is still explosive enough where they can beat anybody. Their defense is terrible, but when you look at their upcoming schedule, there's not too many teams that are going to be able to go point for point with them.
The thing that is interesting, point for point, I agree.
Let's say, like, offensively, they have the best offensive, I think, a lot of their schedule left.
So the Chargers will give them a go.
Yep, that'll probably be a loss.
The Steelers will as well.
Yep, so it's 2 more.
They will beat the brakes off the Cowboys.
Yep.
The Titans are funny in the way that they play really good defense.
Like, they'd be able to keep the game close, but I don't think the Titans would be able to score, 20, 21 points. And that'd be the thing. Like, all Cincinnati would need is 20, 21 points, and I think that'd be enough to win that game.
No, exactly. The Browns will – I mean, they'll beat the Browns because the Browns are just bad. The Broncos will be an interesting game.
Yep.
And then
that'll be the deciding factor.
Yep.
That game could be the deciding factor on who makes the playoffs, who doesn't.
Well, and then they got to play the Steelers again to finish the season.
Which that game, it depends on if Steelers have everything wrapped up. Like if they have the division wrapped up, if they have a playoff spot wrapped up, if they have their seed wrapped up where they can't drop or go up, that might be a game where you just sit everybody and then it's like, oh, Justin Fields is starting. Everybody else is starting. Cincinnati wins just because Pittsburgh's playing nobody.
Well, I mean, so you can look at it a couple different ways, though, because that's a divisional game. So you may come with it to keep them out of the playoffs so you don't have to face them a third time.
I
well,
like that.
The
second to last week of the season, interestingly enough, is Steelers versus Chiefs. On Christmas. That's on Christmas, actually. They have a Saturday game at the Ravens. So here's the Steelers schedule at the very end of the season, and talk about, wow, this is painful. December 15th at the Eagles. December 21st at the Ravens. That's a short week because it's a Saturday game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then another short week, December 25th, Christmas Day at the Chiefs.
Oof.
And if everything goes the way it's going, that game won't matter much other than the fact that the Chiefs, if the Chiefs were to lose that game, if they were to stay undefeated until lose that game, and also the Steelers hold serve,
Mhm.
the Steelers winning that game make the Chiefs have to play the 17th game of their season because
Yeah.
a loss would make them losers. Of course, they play the Bengals at the end. Well, it would make them fall to the second seed.
No,
I
which,
think I think regardless, I think if the Chiefs are sitting at 16-0, I think they're going for 17-0. They're
Well,
going
if they're going for 16-0, they'll go for 17-0. But excuse me, who do they play in the last week of the season? I mean, it could
I think
be
they played Denver the last week. Denver, the Chargers the last week. I think they play.
I played Denver.
Yeah.
So, and they have a tough last three games:
Well,
Texans, Steelers, Broncos.
that's the same thing though with the Houston Texans. Like, granted, how you were just saying how like the Steelers have all those games in a row. Houston's the same way. Even though one of their games is easier, but they play the Dolphins on the 15th. Then they have the Chiefs on the 21st, and then they have the Ravens on the 25th. So the Texans have like 3 games in 10 days too, where it's like, oh, if the Dolphins would have been playing the way the Dolphins expected to play, that'd be one of the tougher 3-game stretches too.
That's just friggin' Wednesday football. So
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, and it'll be on Netflix if I remember right.
Well, I don't mind. Yeah, Netflix. Yeah, I don't mind the teams playing on Wednesday, but if you're playing these teams on Wednesday, they have no business playing on Saturday and Sunday. They should be playing Thursday the week before, and then getting 6 days off and going on Wednesday. There's no reason at all they should be playing Sunday
Or
and
playing
then,
the Friday games. Playing
Yeah.
Friday games. Give
yeah,
them
like there's no reason at all they should be playing a Sunday and not only getting a short week, but a shorter than short week to go again on Wednesday.
Take it easy, Chris. Yeah, I mean, it's the Steelers. The way they wrap up the year is going to be a rough out for them, since they have all of their division games, right? Because they hadn't played one yet, and then their other 2 games are what, the Eagles and KC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about a rough road to take. Because I mean, the only games that you're looking at that are probably a slam dunk is what the
Well,
Browns.
and they have the Ravens before us. So
Yeah,
it goes
so
Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs.
So what they have is Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, KC, Bengals. Like they got a rough final.
Well, and plus now they got all 6 games. I mean, they're we're 10 weeks in, and they've played 9 games. They already had their bye, and they got 6 of their next
8. 6 of 8 are all divisional games. Like, that is insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's telling everybody, hey, we care that much. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting back end of the season, definitely for sure. I mean, because I'm still thinking that the Colts actually have an opportunity to beat out the Texans. The Texans are not playing well enough.
No, that's what I was going to say too. I was going to say if the Texans continue to play the way they are, they can play themselves out. But at the same time, their next 3 weeks, I think, are what's going to actually save their season, because their next 3 weeks, if you look at their schedule, I'll pull it up in a second right here. They have the Titans, the Cowboys, and the Jaguars the next 3 games, and then the Dolphins. So that next 4-game stretch for the Texans, as long as they go 3-1, that gets them to 9 wins. I think 9 wins that division. So like the next 4-game stretch, the Colts have to hope Texans go 2-2, and the Colts have to somehow go 3-1 to stay afloat. Otherwise, they're going to fall too far back.
Well, and I mean, in doing that, their next games are the Jets, the Lions, Patriots, Broncos, Titans. That's an easy win.
Yeah.
Giants is a win. Jags probably a win. So I mean, they
That's
basically need to win the next 4.
Yeah, that's 4 wins, I think, right there for the Colts when you read those off. And if they can somehow get a 5th win out of that stretch, that would keep the division hopes alive. But like I said, if Houston can go 3-1 in this next 4-game stretch, or even 4-0, I don't think it's going to matter what the Colts do, because if they get to 9-10 wins, I don't think the Colts can catch them.
No, definitely not. And I mean, the Colts getting by the Jets, who knows, right? Because it's not like the Colts are great.
No, it's not.
So I mean,
Jets aren't great either.
that's probably a game that's a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
They probably definitely lose to the Lions. The Patriots can beat them.
Mm-hmm.
That defense on its own, right? The Broncos definitely
We'll beat them.
Yeah. Titans is an L. Like they'll beat the Titans because the Titans are outside of their defense. The Titans defense is good.
Yeah.
The Giants do nothing well. And
They lose well.
they are exceptionally good at that. Yes. And then the Jags. The Jags are right along with that. So I think it's too little too late for the Colts unless the Texans just fall apart.
I mean, the Texans could theoretically win their next 4 and lose their final 3 when you look at how that back end of the schedule shapes up for Houston.
Yep.
And even if they do that, they finish 10-7. And right now with the Colts being 4-6, that basically means they pretty much have to win out.
Yeah, but I mean, if you do that, if you lose your final 3 to get into the playoffs, you're a one and done.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be one and done anyways, just because they're too injured. They've lost way too many pieces that they were counting on to make a deep run this year. Like Diggs being out with the torn ACL, Nico Collins is out. They've had Tank Bell out, Mixon's been out. Like that team really hasn't been healthy at any point this season, which is kind of disappointing because I wanted to see how good that team was going to be with all their pieces like 100% healthy. Because like even early in the season when Minnesota beat them in week 3, they didn't have Joe Mixon. A couple weeks later, Diggs goes down, then Collins goes down. Like they've been healthy for one game this season. That was the first game of the year. But outside of that, they have not been healthy. So it's kind of disappointing because I really did want to see how good that team could have been if everybody was healthy.
Well, and then of course, you have Diggs with that restructured deal, so you don't even know if he'll be on this team next year.
Yeah.
In fact, he probably won't.
No, especially now with how Michi played the other day.
Yeah.
So where do you think he goes? Actually, I know exactly where he's going to go.
What, you think he's a Cowboy?
Yes.
Why
not put the brothers together?
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised just because he is the other team. The other team I wouldn't be surprised that he goes to either is Baltimore.
Yeah.
No.
Although his attitude is like a Baltimore type of attitude, but
and he's from Maryland too.
See, I think his attitude is actually what keeps him away from Baltimore. I think there's good teams that aren't interested because he's a problem.
He could have. I could see him winding up in Washington.
That would actually probably help. And that would actually help McLaurin a lot.
Sure.
He's from the Maryland area, so it's not going to surprise me to see him go East Coast to get closer to home because it'll probably be the last.
Also, wouldn't be surprised about the Broncos. I mean, I
would
think
be interesting.
That would give them a weapon that they don't have. Like they don't really have a great wide receiver core right now.
They did. They traded them all away.
Yeah,
but that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally, I think that he could actually go there. I mean, I don't know how he deals with that coach.
That's the thing.
So I could see him with the Bears. That sort of dysfunction fits right in.
He wouldn't go to Chicago.
No, he wouldn't. But I could see him in Dallas.
I could see him.
Brother, I could see that being a thing.
Could possibly go back to Minnesota?
No, Minnesota don't want him back.
No, anywhere.
It's a matter of money. It's going to be a matter of money too.
I could see him going to Kansas City because he's
not now that they got D-Hop.
Well, that's the thing that they have D-Hop. They have Rashee Rice, but we don't know how Rice is going to come back from that knee injury yet. And outside of that, they have Kelsey. Kelsey's almost done. So they're going to want somebody to replace Kelsey's production. Diggs is getting to that point of his career where he just wants to play.
Do you think Kelsey retires this year?
If Kansas City wins, I think he retires.
If they lose?
If they lose, I think he comes back because he is close to breaking all the tight end records. So I think
Yeah,
that's what he's gonna weigh. I think if he wins, I think he calls
if,
it a career. If he doesn't, I think he goes for the records.
Do you
no
think
way.
that? Do you
Keep
think
going,
that
right?
Patrick
You stay till you
Mahomes?
get. You stay till you lose.
Do you think that Mahomes is anywhere near as good a quarterback without Kelsey?
I think he could honestly be better. And the reason why I would say that is he's had Kelsey for his entire career. That's been his safety blanket. That's been the guy that he basically goes to every time he wants to make a completion. Third down, he goes to Kelsey. Fourth down, he goes to Kelsey. Like every time he needs that completion, he goes to Kelsey. Then at the beginning of the year, you saw the connection that Mahomes and Rice were starting to get. He's going to have Rashee Rice for 4 more years because of the rookie deal. Plus, if they sign the extension, Mahomes and Hopkins already have kind of that connection because they both played in that Cliff Kingsbury system, so they both know the terminology. They both know kind of the play calls and where they need to be. So if he has Hopkins and Rashee Rice for a couple more years, let's just say Diggs goes there to ultimately replace Kelsey if Kelsey retires. I think Mahomes could be a better quarterback because he's going to have 3 legitimate options that he can count on at any down in the game.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have Diggs replacing Kelsey. Like that's a different position.
No,
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. So
How that works.
I feel that Andy likes pillaging ex-Eagles. I think that
Okay.
there's something to be said for that. And I would pay attention to Calcaterra in the offseason. Calcaterra, when Dallas Goedert was hurt, came in and actually was a weapon. He was actually being used as a weapon. And that was a surprise to a lot of people. Now, I was surprised that they didn't trade him because his stock was actually a lot higher as a tight end. He's a good blocking tight end, and he's got good hands. He was able to catch the ball. He was able to get able to get open in space and run the
That's
ball a
what they
little
need.
bit. So a lot of yak. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I
That's
wouldn't
all.
be surprised that I think Kelsey comes back one more year either way. Reason being is that that Andy likes to have a transition.
Mm-hmm.
And my expectation is that there would be a transition from tight end to tight end. And I think that there is a spot for somebody who's got a little bit of value to come in there and learn from a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? And I think I think that beyond anything else, Kelsey, is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
So,
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how that all works.
I think the key piece to Kansas City's offense too is whether or not Kareem Hunt comes back next year. Because if you pair Kareem Hunt with Isaiah Pacheco in that backfield, that changes the outlook of that Kansas City offense a lot more than what Patrick Mahomes has ever had because he's never really had that dynamic running back until he's gotten Pacheco. But now that Hunt has gone back to Kansas City, Hunt is still showing that he's a very good running back. You pair Hunt with Pacheco, you can't necessarily focus on the pass as much as you had to focus on it before because you have to take into account Hunt and Pacheco both not only being on the field, but both are pass-catching threats in the screen game, which opens up a lot more for that Kansas City offense.
So is Edwards-Helaire.
Edwards-Helaire's not coming back.
Ever?
Well, not the Kansas City. Like he hasn't played one snap this year. He's not coming back to Kansas City.
We mentioned that offline, Brad. You know what? It's probably a good place to actually do the transition of True Fusion Gym.
Sure, why not? Mostly if you're betting on players that are getting cut. You can do that right here on BetUS. 125% of your initial deposits, up to 3 of those, and of course 10% bet guarantee if you happen to lose. Some restrictions do apply, but you can bet right alongside us here at Coast to Coast. And of course, not doing True Fusion Gym today. We're going to go ahead and do Archer duct cleaning here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, if you haven't done it in your area, there are companies that you can use as well, but dryer fires are a very real thing. 15,000 of them in the U.S. alone every year, starting at $150 here in the Pacific Northwest. Check out Archer Duct Cleaning at Archer Ducts on Facebook. All right.
See, now you're putting that. See, you're getting involved here. We need to get him on here. Is he a certified guy? I am a certified duct cleaner, Archer duct, and with the dryer fires and stuff like that. I used to try and clean them out. Chimney sweeps do that,
Yep.
and there's an actual certification for dryer vents. I want to know
And
if he's certified.
he sure is, because it's me.
So,
Perfect.
so since-
Awesome. There we go. See, and see, that's something I have all of that equipment. I've done that before. So
since you were talking about flexing out games before, would you flex the Chargers and Bengals on Sunday night for Chiefs and Bills?
Yes.
Chiefs and Bills are scheduled to play at 3:00.
how many? They'd have to name that today, right? That's 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, that's this weekend.
Oh, then they can't.
No, you can't.
Wow, that is dumb.
So
Wow,
well,
I'd rather
who's
watch
got the
Chiefs-
game? Is that a Fox game? I'd be willing to bet that's a Fox game.
CBS has Chiefs and Bills at 3:00.
Maybe that's the reason. Because our 4 o'clock game was CBS game, Dallas against Dallas Eagles, which is never a CBS game. That's always a Fox game. So there's some funniness happening in that regards. That's what's playing some of the point here.
It would make
So
the
CBS is probably
easiest.
saying we're not losing that game.
It'd be the easiest switch too, because Bengals are going out to the West Coast, so a 12:00 or a 3:00 game, and with the Chargers is a normal start time for them, so that'd be the easiest swap, anyways.
Yeah, there is some gymnastics they have to perform to switch networks, though, because then they have to give them a equally viewable game. I remember watching a thing about it last year about trying to trade games to get them into prime time. It's not just the NFL saying, "Hey, we want to move this." Like, they have to.
Well, it used to be. Now it's not.
It did.
Now
it
it's
did
not.
used to be. But yeah, no, the way it sits now they have to get a equally watchable game for the other network they're pulling it from. And
Yeah, well, CBS has an amazing doubleheader this weekend, so I don't know what game Tony Romo's taking.
yeah,
He's got
the 12
it's
o'clock
it's Ravens and Steelers at 3:00, or Bills and Chiefs, or Ravens and Steelers at noon, or Bills and Chiefs at 3. Those are both CBS games.
Those are both
what's
good
the
games.
Monday night game?
Monday night game is Houston and Dallas.
See, it's another Monday night game that should have been flexed.
Yeah,
no,
CBS.
no, because that's
Dallas will never
that's-
get flexed
That's
because
the
they
fourth
draw.
and sixth market.
Yeah,
Number
Dallas-
4 and 6 market.
Like,
And
I get it.
That rivalry,
Be a
I don't
good
think
game.
Dallas has won. I don't think Dallas has won a game in that rivalry.
Well, and they're not going to.
But yeah, you want to
And what Dallas is like 0-5 at home this year, right?
Well,
I think they won their
5.
first. They won their first home game, I believe. The first game of
What?
the year, I think they won at home.
No, they haven't
Are they
won a
open?
game at home this year.
Woo! Good job,
Yeah,
Cowboys.
so from last year, they've been down by at least 20 points. And yeah, it's 5 straight losses.
Yeah.
Like, they've been getting smoked.
Yes, we know Dallas sucks. So you're all right. I do want to jump on this for a little bit because I obviously it's the Phillies, and I do want to kind of talk about this. We're not really at the winter meetings yet, but yes, I heard that as well, that they're going to go after this guy. That they're also going to make a play for Soto.
Interesting.
There has been some whispers down the lane that Soto does not want to be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Players Association may get involved with this, but the whisper is that he doesn't need $700 million to go play somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That he kind of wants to, that this whole hopping around thing has not boded well for him, and that he may go very similar to a Harper style contract.
Just a long-term deal. Stay where you're
Long-term
at.
deal, no trade clause. I'm happy and I want to start a family type thing. Kid's 24 years old.
Okay.
So when you think about a $700 million deal at a 24-year-old, that could be 15 years at $700 million.
Sure.
Which then isn't such a big deal.
Well, especially considering he's only going to play 10 of them. And the final 5 will be the, Bobby.
The final five will be an Albert Pujols DH, where it's just like, well, we have you for 5 more years. We need you in the lineup, so just play DH. You hit 10 home runs. Congratulations.
So I mean,
But what you were saying
depending
about how the Phillies are interested in Sasaki, every team in Major League Baseball should be going after him, knowing the type of contract you can get him for. He's not a normal Japanese free agent. He's got to go through the international signing type of deal where he's only going to make $700,000 this year. Every team in Major League Baseball can afford to sign a guy for $700,000. Every team should be going at.
Yeah, of
Every
course.
team should be making a play for this guy because they know that they have to sign him to a minor league deal.
This is never going to happen, Rob.
Like when I heard that come out, that's not a deal like the initial free agent period, and it's not like a normal Japanese free agent where you have the posting fees and then a 10 or 20% of the contract that he gets goes back to the team that's posting him. Every team in baseball should be making a play for this guy because he's not going to cost a team anything. You can sign him to a 7-year, $10 million contract, but within 3 years, you can give him a huge extension if you wanted to because he's only 23. There's not one team in baseball that should not be making a call right now to figure out how they can get him on a minor league deal.
I know how I would do it. You pay the team.
No, yeah, I'm saying you pay the team, but just in general, knowing that you can get this guy,
Give them like
Yeah.
$25 million and be like, hey, yeah.
But like even with like
Right.
even the A's, the Rays, the Pirates, the White Sox, and these teams that have small payrolls, they should still be making a call for Sasaki and be like, we understand that you can get this, that we can have him on a minor league deal. Like, let's talk and see what we can do. Like, every team should at least be making a call to be like, hey, can we get a meeting with him to talk to him? Because there's not one single team in baseball that cannot afford a minor league deal.
I hear you. Well, and I know that, like I said, the Phillies have brought in new, additional ownership to the tune of $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I hear that, the first thing I think of is that ticket prices are going to go up a little bit.
Yep.
Obviously. But you have to be able to put the team on the field. If you just raised $500 million, you better go get Soto. And the truth of the matter is that I may want to give an invite to who's the guy down in Mexico, not allowed to play.
Bauer?
Huh?
Trevor Bauer?
Bauer. I would definitely give an invite to Bauer.
See, this is going to be the funny part. If Sasaki ends up getting a minor league deal for like $700,000 or whatever they said the veterans minimum is that he can get, somebody's going to give Trevor Bauer the same thing.
Imagine getting both of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like at this point, like Trevor Bauer, yes, he's 34 going on 35. Sasaki's 23. But Bauer's proven that he can still pitch at an elite level. So even if you get him on like a 2-year, 3-year deal for like...
I'd want him to be a closer. I know he's a good starting pitcher.
You could,
but I would want him to be a closer. I want to use him every day. Like, that's where he's going to get the biggest amount of money the fastest. That's what I would do.
And you could sign him to like a 3-year, $30 million deal and just make that first year like $800,000 to get him just on your team at like that veteran minimum. And then the back 2 years of that deal
with like a $3 million opt out.
Yeah, and then the back 2 years is getting 15, 16 million apiece. Just to get him on your team, give him a 3-year deal, but make that first year like that veterans minimum minor league deal just to get him on your organization and then do what you want with him.
Yeah, like I said, with a $5 million or a $3 million opt out, where you can, hey, I'm going to give you your $5 million. Bye. So, it's going to be interesting. These winter meetings are going to be good this year.
It's not going to be slow like it has been in the past.
Well, I think that so, and of course, the first thing that kind of brought this up was that Alec Boehm was put onto the trading block in a real sense. First off, I think that everybody knew that already. I think the same thing with Brad Marsh. Brad Marsh is quietly on the trading block. I just, truth of the matter is that if we were to get Soto, are you moving Castellanos over to left field? Will he go over to left field? Will you put Soto in left field? Can a guy who plays right field play left field?
Yeah, because right field's harder to play than left field.
All right.
especially at Philadelphia because you have that higher wall in right field where that ball can take kind of weird bounces off that higher wall in right field. It'd be easier for him to move that to left.
It's not as high a wall. It's not as crazy as you think it is. It's about the same size as the left field wall. It's got that weird angle that angles backwards, and that's in center field. So I'm not really thinking about it in that regard. But I mean, because I feel like if Soto would play left field, then you don't need to move Castellanos. Because I think Castellanos, out of the two of them, Castellanos is the better fielder. Which sounds funny because he came here for the bat, not for the fielding.
Right.
So, but I mean, and I've been hearing more and more stuff about how Castellanos is, he's just a real dude.
He is.
You know what I
He's
mean?
always been that way.
You know, it's just a cool guy, and that is one of the things that kind of gets lost in the mix. I know that in the beginning of the season, Philly fans were like really frustrated with him, and like I said, I know that this is where a family thing matters. You know, the family matters, and when his son showed up, all of a sudden he got better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
And
that's the real thing. So,
and that's what frustrated me so much when the Cubs basically let him get away, because the Cubs had him for those 2 months in 2018 where he just went on like a big time tear the second half of the season. Castellanos said he loved Chicago and he wanted to stay in Chicago. Like his wife loved it, his kid loved it, like everybody in his family loves Chicago. And he was so genuine with all the fans there. Like he would stay after 2 to 3 hours sometimes after the game was over, signing autographs and talking to fans. Like Castellanos has always been like such a nice guy where he doesn't care what market he's in. Like, oh, I just played a 14-inning game that took 5 hours. I'll sit out there for another 2 hours and sign baseballs for kids. I'll talk to kids. I'll take pictures. Like that's how he's always been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It cracked me up when they were doing the interview with MLB Network, and he goes, "Well, you know," they asked him a question about Philly, and he goes, "Yeah, I fuck with Philly." Right on MLB Network, they didn't know what to say. They're like,
probably because you don't have time to bleep it out because you don't expect him to say something.
Right,
like
exactly. He's just, and he was like, they're like, the guy's like, "Wow, Nick, I love you, man." He didn't know what else to
Cost us
say.
$10,000, dude.
10. That might have been more than that, but
He probably would have wrote him a check for double what he cost and been like, "Oops, sorry."
Yeah, my bad.
But I also found out that he was the one. Like, I mean, I didn't find out. I knew that he was the one who had the party for the Phillies, the whole Phillies team. He had them all come over to his house. He had a barbecue, you know, and I'm talking some super ridiculous high-end meat was used. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like this was a good.
It's the Wagyu party.
Yeah,
No,
it was.
Yeah.
A Wagyu tomahawk.
Oh, okay.
I'm not joking. I am not joking. It was
Big money.
every bit of a $50,000 party that he had everybody come over to his house for and stuff like that. So
That's what he did in Chicago too. The day that he found out that he was, or the day that he signed with the Reds, before he went to Cincinnati, he took everybody in the Cubs organization and took them to like some restaurant in Chicago and just like bought them pretty much anything they wanted just to thank them for like the 3 months that he was in Chicago.
See, that's cool.
And that was before he got paid too. That's when he was. I'm going to say only because, you know, the athletes make so much money now. But when he was in Chicago, he was only making $5.8 million a year, maybe $6 million a year, not the $25-30 million that he's making now. So when you're only getting paid your $6 million as opposed to the $30 million now, taking an entire organization out for like a going away celebration and thanking the organization for like 3 months of work, that's a very classy move for him.
Yeah, and you know that was not a cheap event.
Not in downtown Chicago, no.
Yeah.
So,
That being said,
I like him. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan.
I like Castellanos too.
absolutely. That brings us to the top of the hour. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our stuff to you. And of course, if you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.
Later, guys.
In Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live